everyone. Let's talk about the myth of the strong Black woman, why it is harmful to our mental health, and how we can begin to heal from it. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Marissa Price. My channel is Marissa Price Heals, creating a safe space for Black women and femmes to heal from past traumas we've experienced, to chart a new path forward, to share resources, information with each other as we are on this healing journey. And so if you are here live, please introduce yourselves in the chat so we can say hello. If you're watching on the replay, please let us know in the comments so we can say hello as well. So this will be a short video. I am traveling, so a lot of chaos behind the scenes, but yes, happy to be here to talk about the myth of the strong Black woman. I'm also hosting a healing circle this Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. It's a safe place to feel for sensitive, introverted, empathic Black women on a healing journey. So I will link that in the chat, and it's also in the description section as well if you'd like to join us. Again, it is this Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. I'll link it here. I see someone has joined. Hello, hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining. And apologies if you can hear a really loud fan in the background because I am outside and there's a heat wave in the US. So I'm here at the perfect time. So yes, apologies if you can hear that. But yes, I'm going to link this in the chat again because I think that got cut off. So yes, scrolling through my notes. Right, so the myth of being the strong Black woman can really impact our mental health if we feel like we don't have space to be human, to tell people, right, when things are hurting us, to even recognize it to ourselves, admit it to ourselves that we are hurting. And so this myth, we're going to break it down a little bit today. And if you have anything to share, please feel free to do so in the chat. Again, this is going to be a short video because it's hot. I'm outside. So there may have to be a part 2, but welcome to everyone who is joining. Hello, Atala. Hoping I'm saying your name correctly. Please let me know if not. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Right, so these systems that we're in, these oppressive systems, often require us to survive, right? And so that's where the myth comes from. During enslavement, right, we were forced to endure pain, labor, separation, and violence without rest, without recognition, and without care often of being a human being, right? We were told that our worth was in our usefulness. We were expected to be unbreakable for everyone else. And so we internalized, right, this myth often to ourselves, which is how it can impact our mental health. We feel like we can't even acknowledge that we are suffering, that we need support, that we need help. And then we start to spiral down in anxiety, depression, spiral, sometimes even worse. And so it's recognizing that you are human, right? Saying that to yourself, even if it's an affirmation, right? It sounds really simple, but really repeating that to yourself. I'm a human being. I have emotions. I have feelings. I need support with these things. And that doesn't make you weak, as we're often taught. That makes you a human being, right? That is how our brains are wired to live in community, receiving support from other people. It's supposed to be a very communal experience, the way that we're living. But these systems have told us that, first of all, we have to be individuals, that we're all just here existing as individual people, when that's not the way that any of this was supposed to be. And so it's why it feels so wrong for so many of us, right? To have all this pressure on us to do all these things ourselves, and just to recognize that you deserve to receive support, right? That you don't have to internalize this myth that, again, is rooted in things like enslavement, colonialism, that has dehumanized us for centuries. And getting back to your humanity and affirming that to yourself over and over again. I am human. I have feelings. Those of us who are sensitive, who are introverted, we tend to hold things within. And so the more that you can find the safe spaces, and I hope that this is one of them, to be able to process what you're experiencing, express emotions, and it not be ridiculed, criticized, you not be bullied for it. So often we are targeted in workplaces, academic settings, you name it, being in this type of society, right, where individualism, where not feeling where being cut off from your emotions is prized. Um, we're within a colonial system that really prioritizes these things. And those of us who are able to hold on to being able to feel, to emote, we're often targeted, right, within these systems. So it's just recognizing that there is nothing wrong with you. And this is a myth, right? So even recognizing that the myth of being a strong Black woman, where did that come from? It's rooted in our oppression. And so the more that you can begin to release that from your own understanding, right, and give yourself grace, compassion, affirm your own humanity to yourself, regardless if the outside world does it or not, because that's not something we have control over. What we do have control over is how we view ourselves, our self perception. And even if it has been tarnished in the past, knowing that you can always go back and reclaim those parts and affirm your humanity to yourself is so important. Right? So, what might look like confidence and power, right? Underneath may be levels of exhaustion and isolation. So, it can show up like feeling guilty for asking someone for help, silencing your emotions to keep it all together, believing you're only valuable when you're producing or supporting other people, right? Service is so heavily emphasized. How are you serving other people? How are you sacrificing your own well being for the good of the whole? And beginning to unlearn these things that are, again, so deeply embedded in so many of the systems that we're operating in, and really prioritizing yourself and your well being. So, being everyone else's anchor, but never truly feeling held yourself, right? So, this is, again, a myth rooted in enslavement, colonialism, our oppression, misogynoir, coined by Moya Bailey in 2018, which is the specific hatred and mistreatment of Black women, which is such an important term. So healing begins when we remember that we don't have to carry everything to be valuable. We don't have to earn our rest with our labor. We don't have to be strong to be loved. It's getting in safe spaces, again, like these, where we're able to affirm to each other, reflect to each other our inherent worth. Why else would we be here if we're not already inherently worthy? Again, that's a message in oppressive systems that we have to earn when they don't have that. They don't have that message taught to them that they have to earn that. So many people are born into this world fully believing, right, deep within themselves, that of course I'm meant to be here. Of course I deserve everything, right? Even if I am mediocre at best, I deserve this title, this accolade, this award. And so it's really understanding that, the messages that we receive, and then shedding, right, what does not serve you and getting back to your true, authentic self. So again, you are not a machine. You are a whole human being with emotions, with feelings, with the need for rest. If we look at any other living thing, right, the basics, the living essentials, we need rest, we need water, we need care, we need sunlight to be well. If you look at any living thing, so why would it be any different for us as human beings, as living beings, right? We need the same exact things to be well. And so, again, this video is going to be short because it's hot outside. And I am back in the US and there is a heat wave. So, yes, and let me know if y'all are experiencing this too. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Right. So, some reminders: you're allowed to be sensitive, you're allowed to be feeling, you're allowed to need other people. You're a human being. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to be held. And no, you do not have to shrink your tenderness to fit into someone else's image of being resilient, of being strong, right? These labels that are often affixed to us as Black women, that can really be damaging. When we repeat them back to ourselves, I'm supposed to be strong, I'm supposed to be resilient, and yet I'm experiencing harm, right? I'm being harmed, I need support. And there becomes like an inner conflict between these two things. The messages that we receive from outside people, and then we repeat them to ourselves, realizing, right, our bodies realize that we're human. And so there's a conflict between that. If we've received dehumanizing messages throughout our lives, beginning to understand where those came from, who those benefit, and then shed those. Begin to release them, begin to shed them, and come back into your full humanity is so important. Okay, I'm not the only one. I'm in Texas trying to avoid going outdoors. Me too. My Wi-Fi wasn't working, so I am outside. So this video is going to be short. Yes, I'm in Missouri. It is very, very hot at the moment. Very hot. So yes, right? So you are a whole human being. You can reclaim your sensitivity without apology. You can feel what you feel without judgment, again, in safe spaces like this. Not everyone is a safe place to be able to share what you're feeling, but being able to identify those spaces because they do exist. And the internet has been such a valuable resource in that. Asking for support without feeling guilty because you're a human being. That's, again, how we're wired. And I'll be talking more about how our brains are wired because I've been getting more into that, right? And the level of dehumanization that we experience, right? Sometimes not even, people don't even recognize that we're fully human. Again, going back to the 3/5 compromise that's still in the Constitution, viewing us as not a full human being, but 3/5 of a human being. And how does that narrative and that myth still continue to persist in the ways that we view ourselves, in the messages around mental health, not even recognizing that we have human brains sometimes, that we have an amygdala, right? We have a prefrontal cortex, all these things that are creating some of these feelings that we're experiencing, these emotions, these blockages. And so really getting into how the brain operates and recognizing that we are human, again, affirming that to ourselves, right? We need rest, we need care, we need water, we need sunlight, what every other living thing needs. And the fact that it's so difficult to even recognize that, right, speaks to the level of dehumanization that we have experienced for centuries. So recognizing that our rest is sacred, our humanity is enough, and our sensitivity, our softness is our strength. And we can get into safe spaces like this to be able to affirm that to each other, as especially as sensitive, introverted, empathic Black women who have spiritual gifts, right? These are not flaws that we're able to feel so deeply, even though that's the message that we receive so often. This is such a strength to be able to feel, right? And going back to the time before colonization, which is so important. These were upheld, the gifts that we have to feel, to understand what people are saying, right? The level of emotion is in a post-colonial, which is still ongoing world that tells us that these are flaws because they don't want us to feel, they want us to be numb, they don't want us to experience the deep emotions around what we're seeing. And so if you can really affirm that, reflect that back to yourself, and understand the world that we're in, that can be a really huge source of healing. So again, as we wrap up, I am hosting, again, a 4-week healing program called Silence Your Inner Critic. And we start Sunday, July 6th. I'm also hosting a healing circle this upcoming Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. If you'd like to register, the information is in the description section. And yes, thank you so much for joining. Again, I'm outside. I'm in the US. It's hot. It's humid. So I'm going to go back inside. But I appreciate y'all being here. If you're watching on the replay, please let us know in the comments so we can learn from each other. And again, releasing the myth, the dehumanizing myth of the strong Black woman, and recognizing and reflecting to yourself that you are human, that you deserve all of these things, right? Hello, welcome. Yes, we wear the mask, we wear the cape, bless our hearts. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. And so we need these basic things to be well, right? These essentials of human life. And it has been a process of dehumanization that has harmed our mental health. And so many of us are healing these generational patterns, right? And really prioritizing ourselves, maybe for the first time in centuries in our lineages. And so it's a huge undertaking, but you have been chosen, if this message resonates with you, to really chart a different path forward. And that's huge, right? To be able to sit with that. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go inside in the air conditioning. But yes, until next time, y'all. Hope to see you Sunday if you can make it for the Healing Circle, a safe place to feel. And Silence Your Inner Critic, my 4-week healing program, which I'll be sharing more about next week, starts Sunday, July 6th. If you'd like to register, link is in the description section. All right, y'all. Thank you. Bye.